I was watching it in a pub in Dublin, just off O'Connell Bridge. First time I was ever there, and I've never been there since.
We were in Beijing in China doing a documentary about a pop singer called Wei Wei.
I was in the Beverly Hills, not the one in Los Angeles. The Beverly Hills Hotel in Rome.
I watched the game in the International Bar on Wicklow Street, which was the hot press local.
I remember being in my nanny's house and watching the game.
Like a home match for the Irish. As one of the travelling press corps remarks, welcome to Lansdowne Road.
I remember vividly actually rushing down to the pub, and the traffic lights were, every traffic light 3 or 4 against me were red, and I was banging on the steering wheel. I had the radio on, listening to the match.
I was on an oil rig and I was working there, and it was my first gig. I was supporting Jim Davison.
I watched it in the bar of the Green Room in the English National Theatre.
I actually watched it in the square in Cefalù, which was a town about 30 miles from Palermo.
Day trippers, those who've been here throughout the World Cup. They've made the Mecca, the city of Genoa, which was once home, of course, to Liam Brady.
We were there, we could see the turf cheering each other up, waiting.
We were in the upper deck, quite near the front. I can't remember who was exactly beside me because that kind of got lost, but there were lots of people around me that I knew, not only Irish, but commentators from other countries who would have been there doing exactly the same as I was, but obviously with maybe not quite the same level of partiality, shall we say.
I watched the match from the commentary box, but I watched the penalty shootout from the sideline.
The game was not a great game. I mean, if people are honest, it just wasn't a great game. And actually, I think Romania had the better of the game. And I just remember my heart stopping frequently every time Lakatouche went forward and Hadji went forward. But once we got into the penalties, it was all up for grabs.
That's it. 15 minutes of extra time. Second period have elapsed. And that will be the end of that.
I felt rotten. To have come so far and done so much, now the whole thing was going to be settled by in such an insane way. It was going to be over in something like 2 minutes. And I didn't feel good at all. And none of us did, actually.
Given the way the game had panned out, it hadn't been a wonderful game. But it now sort of was something that everyone in the country was engaged in.
We were on the air with the news bulletin, but we cut across to take the live feed.
Well, at this point, we'd like to say a very warm welcome to viewers of 6-1 News. You're joining us live in the Luigi Ferrari Stadium in Genoa, hosting the most important match in Irish soccer history.
We've been told by Dublin that they'd interrupted the 6-1 News, and with it the press conference that was ending the European Union meeting in Dublin Castle, to carry the match on Channel 1, so I think it was probably a unique broadcast as well, going out on RTE1 and Network 2 at the same time.
I would safely say that whatever else was supposed to be in the bulletin probably got dropped, because it was of no relevance anymore.
So for the very first time in the history of Irish international soccer, the Republic of Ireland team is involved in a penalty shootout.
John and I and Bill expected, certainly John and I would expect Romania probably. You always think the other team are going to win the penalty shootout. You never think you're going to win it yourself. And I suppose the worst possibility was that somebody would miss and really be, the cause of us going out of the World Cup. And you didn't want that to happen to any player.
And I remember saying before, and if somebody misses, they miss. We've done as well as we possibly can. I was not being negative. It's actually a way of relaxing people, I guess.
No one can prepare you for if you miss a penalty, no matter what people might say to you, what your teammates might say to you, what your wife, your mother, your father, your sisters, your brothers, no matter what they say to you, nothing can ever eradicate or expel the pain or hurt that you're feeling. The preparation, everything you've put in for a year, for 2 years, comes down to one kick of a ball.
Jack Charlton is among his players, shaking them by the hand, thanking them for the effort they've made.
thought we were going to be definitely kicked out, because sometimes the Irish get some bad luck at the end of things. And I thought, well, I mean, we've had too much fun. Somebody's going to come in and go, right, the fun's over now. You've had way too much fun, and now I'm going to bend his feet so he'll miss.
The net has been chosen. It's the northern end of the stadium, where there has been a vast bank of Irish fans who have been, I would think, leading the choirs, the massed choirs around the stadium.
There was a man beside me who was, it seemed to me at the time, middle-aged, must be the same age I am now, in his 50s. And he was in actual physical pain because he had a heart condition. And he opened his shirt to show me his heart. The way, the bonding experience one had then, you take off everything, people were checking each other out, and I could see his heart thumping through his ribs.
I have never experienced tension in a public place, genuinely, to compare with the tension in the pub as the penalties started off.
Jack turned away because there was a big screen down the end, and Jack was kind of looking at biting his nails. And when you know, I was up and down the line, you know, and you could imagine the feeling.
I think Sheedy took the first penalty, and he really hammered it, which was an indication of tremendous confidence.
Now it's down to 2 goalkeepers and a series of penalty takers. First to take the penalty is Kevin Sheedy, the scorer of Ireland's goal against England, against the Romanian captain, Silviu Lung. Yes. If Hagi's was decisive, Sheedy's was even more so.
The next penalty, Ray Houghton. We had no problems with Ray Houghton either, because Ray, probably of that Irish team, I think most of the fans would have thought he was probably the most skillful, the most creative, and we knew he'd be good, and he was.
Yes!
Andy Townsend, a leader, we figured he'd go up, he wouldn't bottle it, and he didn't. First little twinge of doubt came when big Tony Cascarino went up, because Tony has great qualities as a player, but you'd never thought him as a dead ball specialist, and that was the heart-stopping moment. When he connected with the ball, he appeared to connect with half of Genoa at the same time.
Oh, jeez, tonight we near collapsed. The keeper went the wrong way and it went under him.
I think as David had gone forward on the ball,
where he seemed to kick the ground, and we all, big ooh, went out with a pub.
Talk about pressure. Oh, yes. It's 4-4, an impeccable penalty sequence.
When the lads, you know, the 4 penalties each, and Jack was still looking up. He still didn't turn around. He still looked up at that big screen, but he was gone like that, because I was looking, and I kept saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do," and he, you know, he didn't want to turn around at all.
The whole question was, would Packy save one? And I remember thinking and saying to somebody, he's getting closer every time. Every time he failed to save, but he was reading it very, very accurately.
The Romanian guy, Timofey, they kicked the ball to Packy's right, and Packy seemed to go in slow motion. You could see Packy getting to the ball. You couldn't believe it. You didn't want to believe. You wanted to believe it, but you couldn't believe that it looked like he was going to save this ball. up and he made a clenched fist. Everyone in the pub just jumped up and down. They were hugging people who I've known for years, who I wouldn't know the names, hugging them, and everyone just couldn't believe he'd saved it. And then suddenly everyone realised we have to take a penalty to win this match.
There was ferocious noise in the pub, as you can imagine, so we could barely hear George Hamilton or whoever. But suddenly we saw this extraordinary sight of what appeared to be Dave O'Leary, or a man who looked remarkably like him, stepping forward and heading up towards the penalty area.
When I saw Dave O'Leary walking forward, I went, oh God, no, please God, this is a joke.
I wasn't well schooled in football, but my thought was, well, if he was dropped from the squad, he can't be that good. I'm told now it was a heroic thing today.
But who's stepping up to assume the task? David O'Leary of Arsenal.
Now, I had been following football a long time, but I'd never seen David O'Leary, nor heard of him taking a penalty.
I don't think Dave ever took a penalty before. I can't remember. And I knew him since he was 13 years of age when he played with Shelbourne. That's when I had him, and I'm going, oh my God, you know.